This meeting is being recorded.
Greetings and welcome to Mount Olympus. I am Hercules Invictus, and today on Voice of Olympus, I'm proud to bring you Living Theurgy. And we have our theurgists here in the panel, and today we'll be discussing several theurgic subjects. And we will start with Brandy Williams. Brandy, can you introduce yourself and give us an update on what you've been up to?
Sure, Brandy Williams, brandywilliamsauthor.com. And my update is that For the Love of the Gods is now available on Ingram Spark as an ebook. So I'm very excited about that. It's held up. Amazon is holding it up, I presume, to check out the copyright because Llewellyn returned the copyright to me. But it is now available on Ingram Spark, and you can link. I'll link off of my webpage probably tomorrow. So hooray! I'm back in print.
Thank you very much, and I love that book. It's one of my required reading books when I do my workshops, so I'm glad it's back in circulation.
Yeah.
Next, Apollonius.
Yeah, and I want to also second that. That's just a wonderful book. I just have really loved that book. I mean, it was one of those books where you read and you say, oh, I wish I had written this. So anyway, yes, I'm glad it's back in print. So I don't really have much news. I've my book on Plethone, the circa 1400 neo-pagan Neoplatonist, is coming out in May. And as far as I know, I've done all I need to do, all of the writing and editing and proofreading and all of that other stuff. So it's in the great publishing pipeline now. And so I'm anxiously awaiting that. I've got a couple other projects, you know, kind of I'm just starting on now, really related to Theurgy, and they'll maybe turn into some papers or something. There's also a conference coming up, Mystic South, and so I'm hoping that I've got some proposals for workshops there. I hope we'll get approved. That's going to be in the summer. You know, originally scheduled for 2 years ago, of course, and it's got postponed like everything else. What else? Well, that's probably about all for now. So my contact information, 2 websites, opsopaeus.com, that's OPSOPAUS.com, and wisdomofhypatia.com. And Hypatia is HYPATIA, and Wisdom of Hypatia is all one word. And you can contact me there and find out a lot of my stuff there.
And there is a lot of stuff. I'm not kidding. There's tons and tons and tons of stuff. And in the future, when a future Brandy writes a book about the love of the gods and talks about the theurgists, all the golden chain is throughout your writings over the years. And that can't be stated enough. Thank you for everything, Apollonius. And last but certainly not least, Jean-Louis de Biasi, Grand Master of Theurgy.
Yeah, before to say anything, Bruce was just saying that he has several projects. Which ones? I'm curious. If I may.
You know, I'll just say briefly something I've been thinking about for a long time, but I'm really trying to work on now is I deal mostly with Neoplatonic theurgy. And as you know, Neoplatonic theurgy is all about ascending, you know, in some sort of metaphorical terms. And it's all about the light. Whereas we know, for example, from the work of Carl Jung, that and also from classical sources, you can go down also. You can make theurgic trips to the underworld. And so I'm studying the differences in techniques and what I would describe as the different phenomenology. What kinds of experiences do you have in an underworld journey as opposed to an upper world journey? And again, this is common shamanic background to all of this too, because shamans typically have to go up sometimes and have to go down sometimes, and knowing where to go is part of the job. So, but I'm trying to kind of integrate this with Neoplatonism, which in some respects seems to be one-sided in terms of what their focus was. And So there's, of course, historical reasons for that, but I'm also interested in the different aspects of the theurgy as well. So I've been reading, if any of you are interested, Carl Jung's Black Books, they're called, because they were black notebooks, were published in 2020. And this is, if you like, the raw transcript of his theurgic operations extended over something like 15 years. And
Wow.
it's really interesting. But it looks, from my own experience, also very typical outputs of theurgic operations. But it is really interesting stuff. And he does spend a lot of his time not up but down, not in the light but in the dark, rummaging around in the dark, and so it makes it very interesting from that perspective. And so that's part of what has motivated me to try and understand this a little better. So all of you, please get in touch with me if you have ideas or sources or personal experiences that, are relevant to that.
I'm sharing some of my personal experiences in a project that I'm working on. So you'll definitely get to see it.
Great.
I can mention something very briefly here. I went to a ritual at Pantheacon that was conducted by a Hellenic group that did the 12 Olympians and did invocations. And then they switched and invoked the underworld gods too, Hades and Persephone and Hermes as the guide. And it really occurs to me as I work with the Olympians that we need to find a way to integrate those. So I'm very interested in that work.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And Jean-Louis,
Thank you,
what is
Bruce.
new with the Aurum Solis? What is new? How did your ritual go? You've been keeping busy also.
Yes, and thank you for sharing the information yesterday. We will have, so the contact first. We will repeat maybe at the end, but the contact first. First one is my last name, debiasi.org, and Aurum Solis, AURUMSOLIS.org. But the website has been transferred on a new platform. So a few things about that, if I can take a few minutes, just to explain to everyone what we did. Previously, the platform was Theurgy University. So for various reasons, Theurgy University vanished. We stopped using it. So you cannot find it anymore. If you use the domain name, you will find aurumsolis.org. So you know that I am in charge of two main initiatory orders, the Aurum Solis and the Kabbalistic Order of the Rose Cross. So let's talk just about the aurumsolis.org. This platform, previously Theurgy University, now is the new platform of the Aurum Solis. So the website, in fact, to reach it, sometimes you could have kind of issue because you have to clean in your internet browser the cache and the history, and then you can access. This is only a main / and the correct address is https:// aurumsolis.org. No www. That's it. So so we changed several things in the presentation of the website, presentation of the pronouns training, that is the training previous the first initiation, and I will talk a little bit later or just now about that. And in the same time, we reorganized this pronouns training and the way we teach theurgy. And in a previous meetings altogether, I was saying that, remember, you can compare sometimes theurgy as this global yoga system or tantra yoga system, in which you have a lot of different things like ritual, but also breathing, mantra, asanas, meditation, concentration, and so on. And I was saying that we have exactly the same And the theurgic system is in fact the union of all these parts. And we were in the Roman studies using this kind of thing as everyone, but it was not formulated exactly in this way. And we worked for the past year with this reformulation, not changing the tradition, obviously, but to present more clearly this vision. So I see I cannot share the screen. Yes, is it possible for me to share something to show you?
I can click share screen if you like and see if that helps.
If this is okay with you, I can take a few minutes just to show you.
Beautiful. I want you to show it. It's beautiful.
Yes.
Okay.
You may have to give him permission, Hercules, to share the screen.
I want to be
Okay.
in that room. It's a great room.
I can't figure out how to do that.
Put your mouse at the bottom of the screen and you should be able to see something that says share screen or allow
Yes.
participants to share screen. There you go.
I clicked on the shared screen and it says enter screen window, Chrome tab, I believe. Choose what to share.
This is when you share. In fact, the point is to click on my square when I am where I am talking, and you should have 3 dots and the option to allow me to share something.
Good job.
Let me see again.
So on the top right of my
Okay, I'm
screen.
clicking on the 3 dots and nothing is happening.
So
Can you
don't
bring it up
worry.
yourself, Hercules?
I'm sorry?
Could you bring it up yourself and then share it?
Yeah,
I
maybe
don't know
we
how
can
to
do
do
that.
that.
Yes, maybe we can do something like that.
Uh-huh.
At least for one thing I am talking about. So I give you on the chat, and maybe everyone can do it.
Oh, there you go. Oh, it's beautiful.
So you can click on this link, and it should work if the cache is.
Okay, I just click on this.
Yep. And then it comes up in your web browser and then you can share that screen.
Yes, but even if everyone can see it, that's fine.
I can't see it. Can everybody else see it?
Yes. Yeah, it looks beautiful.
Okay, so just talk. I don't have to see it.
So if you go down the page, you scroll down, you will find the solar path, and below, there are 2 things I want to talk about a few minutes. The first one is spiritual assistance, and you will find that. And there is a photo and a spiritual assistance. And what we are doing is the bi-monthly prayer group is maintained on this platform at the Ecclesia Dualica, spiritual part of our tradition. It is held on Zoom by using the sacred palindrome. Anyone can request healing prayers. So if you want to share to anyone this, it will be public, bi-weekly. And we did yesterday a special, for this special occasion, the first work. So we will post the dates after. And I think this is worth to share to everyone if they need something. Of course, the kind of work we are doing, you are welcome to attend once or every time you want. This is very theurgic focus using mantra visualization and invocation of the sun and light. So this is what we did last night. If you go down a little bit, you will find something called the Sacred Ogdoad. And this is what I was talking about. And as you can see, the details are not here, but they will be provided on another page. So you have the several aspects. So what is called theurgy on one of the points is not theurgy per se, is the ritual part. In fact, theurgy is, as you, of course, everything that constitutes theurgy. So what is called here for various reasons, theurgy is just the ceremonial aspect. It was for us a better way to explain that the theurgic system, in fact, covers everything, not just the ritual aspect, but purification. And the Platonic Tantra Brandy shared with us is talking a lot about the place of the body and how this is not disconnected, how the soul should be embodied and the work. And this is exactly what is explained here with the movement that is linked, everything linked to the body, with energy, healing, and diet, which is exactly the same. We are talking about the Mediterranean diet, and so on. If we talk about devotion, this is all the work with the deities, and so on. So this is something very important. And what we are doing, we are implementing this aspect. And if you explore, you will see that this Pronos now is live teaching during 8 weeks. So we will have that followed by a weekend in which you have the initiation and the first initiation. So you have 8 weeks, then you go to a weekend. We have a teaching on the same 8 parts, and the first initiation is provided at the end. And we continue the work in the order. And the first weekend, the first of this presentation of the Pronos starts in 2 weeks. And the first weekend is already planned in Dallas, Texas, on April 8, from April 8 to April 10. So it will be in the same time, the end of the Pronos training for some, and in the same time, a workshop open to everyone. So it will be the first class of this kind organization. The point doing that was to give a more complete view of theurgy according to the tradition of the Rome Solis, which is, as you may know, pre-Christian, pagan, Neoplatonist. And so this is the new way to present that and to explain that. So I was very excited to tell you that. And if I may, the second thing, very exciting too, is, and I wanted to share the screen to show you a few photos, but I will send you that and you will be able to share it. You know that I am located in South Nevada. So now we moved and we are 1 hour from Vegas. So this is a country, this is the Mojave Desert. And there are a lot of lands, beautiful. And we had a project for a very long time. And this project is going forward faster now. That means during this year, we bought a land large enough to have a retreat center for the Rome Solis, but for anyone to come, stay a week or 2 days or weekend and teach. All around us, we have just nature, nobody around, 1 hour from Vegas. And we will install like geodesic domes or things like that. And when I say that, it will happen this year. During the summer, we have to drill a well to have water. There is water, but we have to find money to drill the well, but we will succeed. And then place something and open that to our kind of work. So the location is great. And why I'm sharing that to you, just because we will be very, very excited to have you as teacher from time to time, or all of you spend a few days, teach to give a workshop in a very, very nice place. I mean, you walk and you are immediately in the desert. You can walk miles and miles. You will meet maybe some coyotes and that's it.
Wow.
So we will have a place for us, I mean, for the Rome Solis, but for our kind of work in an environment very close to Syria. I traveled there where Jan Blikus was teaching. And we will try, because I visited the place where he taught, the small schoolroom, and we will do our best to build exactly the same thing. Like that, we will, and Bruce will experiment this kind of teaching in a good environment. So this is some of the aspects we are working on, and they are going forward, and it was very exciting to share that with you and everyone else, because this is happening now.
Wow, this is monumental news.
Thank you.
That's so awesome.
Amazing.
Well done.
Wonderful.
Wow. I don't even know how to respond to that. That is so
that cool?
awesome.
I want to ask if you will have air conditioning. I've been to Las Vegas and it's hot.
Yes, yes. And we are close to the mountain. So that means this is, there is a cool air, even during the summer. But yes, you can have air conditioning, at least to sleep. Yes, yes, yes.
Does anybody have any questions to ask Jean-Louis to further expand his vision and his plans?
That is amazing. I'm impressed at the amount of work and dedication that takes. And you have just such a knack, Jean-Louis, of making things happen, of manifesting things. So I believe that you will do this. You have done all the things you've said you were going to do, and it's a very exciting project. Thank you for letting us know about it.
Thank you. And I really hope to welcome you teaching here.
When I can travel.
All of you.
Yeah.
Wow. Apollonius, do you have anything to ask or to say to Jean-Louis?
No, I'm kind of blown away, but it just sounds like a fabulous idea and a wonderful location, and I think it's just great to have a place like that to do this kind of work. To have a home for Aurum Solus, of course, but also then for these various sorts of teaching activities too. I think it's a great resource. Thank you so much.
You know what I was dreaming for, because you know that there are summary tools. Summary tools can be performed only outdoor, outside, in a good environment, without noise, without pollution, and wearing whatever you want. So the fact to go out when the sun is rising, wearing the good clothes and welcoming the sun in this environment, I cannot wait. I did that already a few times, but to have a group doing that and giving the opportunity to do just that, this is precious, I guess.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, to do solar breathing in that environment, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to build bridges to what you're creating, that sounds like a lot of fun and very exciting as well.
Like that, we will have a place for us.
Now, Brandy had some topics that she suggested, and they're awesome topics. We have time, I think, to address one of the topics in the half hour that we have remaining.
Well, Jean-Louis had started talking about Tantra and Theurgy, and I've just read this newish paper from Gregory Shaw, who is a marvelous writer, about Tantra and Theurgy, and maybe that would be a good thing to focus on. It was 2017, so it's fairly new. And he's drawing parallels between tantric practice and theurgic practice. And so Jean-Louis said he had some ideas about talking about that. We've talked about diet. We've talked about being vegetarian. Tony's vegetarian. I'm now vegetarian, getting really serious in my tantric studies. I've turned vegetarian. And we've talked about physical exercise and how important that is, and breathing. I'm not sure that we've talked about visualization exercises that are specifically theurgic, but we all know many of them. It's important in Tantra to get the right image, and that the image is very, very specific. And I think that that's probably true in Theurgy too. As I'm looking at Iamblichus again, he's talking about specific ways of looking at deity. So maybe I would suggest, Hercules, that might be a place we could focus.
That sounds awesome to me. Is everyone fine with that?
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Who'd like to comment first? Apollonius?
Well, sure, I'm happy to. I think on a general issue of tantric and theurgic parallels, I found that myself to be an enormously fruitful comparison, because Tantra is a living tradition, and once you sort of strip away some of the cultural aspects and kind of see what's going on in a you might say in a magical sense or in a psychological sense, then you can say, oh, this is what they must have been doing maybe in Neoplatonism, where the details aren't there, because a lot of it was conveyed by oral teaching. And Iamblichus is a great theoretical treatise, but he doesn't give you many of the details of actual practice. So personally, I found that to be a very valuable thing, especially that and Dzogchen have been very informative to me in terms of understanding the actual theurgic practices. Because again, it's a living tradition, that people are still practicing. But beyond the visualizations, this is what the symbols, symbol synthemata in Neoplatonic theurgy are all about. These are very specific aspects of the deity that are used either physically or mentally as part of the invocation. And that's, we normally, when we think of these things, we normally think of minerals and plants and animals and stuff like that. But it's also attributes of the deity, poses or gestures of the deity, myths about the deity, little snippets of genealogy about the deity. These are all things that tune us into that particular divine energy. And I think what you have in Tantra is these have been very codified, and so it's very specific. There's this in the right arm and this in the left arm, and so forth. Whereas we don't have so many of those specifics in the Neoplatonic tradition, at least. And so we have to try and, I say, use an experimental approach, which was the way a lot of these things were discovered to begin with. Make reasonable conjectures. The lyre is an attribute of Apollo, for example, and then see if it works and see how well it works. The Neoplatonic idea is that the gods have infused everything in the world, but some things are, if you like, more concentrated containers for a particular divine energy, and those then can be combined. So the principles, I think, are exactly the same, but we don't have, as far as we know, these very specific images that you do in the tantric tradition.
Thank you. Jean-Louis?
I was thinking about visualization because it was the original question, I guess, the way we are using visualization. And I wrote several years ago a blog for Llewellyn about that, saying mainly the point was to say, when we are talking about visualization, we are all usually thinking about an image, a creation of something visible. And my question was, if someone is blind was born blind, how he can visualize? Not with vision, he doesn't know anything about it, but with other senses. That means the smell, the taste, and the touch, and so on. And what that means when we start or we train to visualize, if we say to everyone, you should see an image, a bright image, vivid image, and so on, could work. But for some people, maybe this is a smell that is working better,
right?
Or something else. So visualization, because the name, sometimes this is a mistake to say to someone, you should visualize, or you must visualize, you must see this. Maybe you must just, or you should smell the presence of the deity, or smell the flower, smell something, and create a vivid mental representation without any vision. I don't know, but we know that we have all different senses. One is maybe more sensible than the other one. And so when I teach visualization, I'm always trying to say that first, saying, remember what is the easiest way for you to think about something, not just to create an image, but to focus, to concentrate on something. What is the most appropriate for you and the easiest way? And we see doing that, we see that this is not always a vision. Sometimes this is something else. And this is still valid, it works. And for me, this is the first stage. The second one is to, the way we are teaching visualization in normal studies, for example, is to say, you concentrate on something, but this is not just a focus on your mind. This is a strong will to create something on the invisible plane.
Yes.
And whatever you are using, your own energy, your aura, or bringing other energies around you. But the fact is to create something in your aura around you that becomes to be effective on the other levels. Then this is good for you. You can see it, or you can feel it. You can feel the presence. But the next stage is for someone else to feel it without knowing that you are visualizing something. And this is another kind of training. And when I was reading your paper, the Platonic Tantra,
Gregory Shaw's paper.
sure, but you agree with the paper.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes. And this is also this kind of reality. We are talking about another reality, and the possibility for someone, Bruce was talking about shamanism, the possibility of two people going on the other side of the mirror and being able to verify the visualization is effective or not. And this is a very interesting training to say, visualize something, I go on the other side, and I tell you if the visualization is good or not. I tell you your color is this one and not this one. And if it works, that means we are working on something interesting. And the development of psychic powers are really at the center of everything, because even if we do not, one of the grandmaster, of the Orm series was Carl Welle, and he wrote a lot about psychic powers and so on, because he was very focused on it, saying, if you want to have an effective ritual that works, the first thing is to train your psychic powers. If not, you can do whatever you want, nothing will happen. So the foundation is anyway training. And visualization, I think, is a very, very, maybe one of the most important we have to train, really. Because if we cannot concentrate and create on the other level, on the other plane, we cannot achieve anything. I think we cannot achieve anything, because we cannot manipulate the energy, and we cannot give a reality that can be effective for us and for others. So we should start with this kind of training in creative visualization, if we want to use this kind of saying.
Thank you very much.
This is
I
my
don't know
view.
I don't know very much about Tantra, so basically I'll just claim ignorance there. But visualization I do know about. In the groups, when I used to have groups, I knew that we reached a good point when people's like guided visualizations would stray off into other areas, and they would confirm each other when we were sharing what our experiences brought. And a lot of times that would happen. They would wander away from whatever the thread we were visualizing were, and have supplemental visualizations that weren't in the script, but these things would be consistent, and themes and symbols would repeat from person to person. And in the past, when I had done shamanic journeying groups and dream groups, that would happen after a certain point, when everybody gets attuned on a particular level. I found that, like you were saying, Jean-Louis, any level of sensory input that resonates with you, it doesn't have to be a clear image. It could be anything. It could be a scent, it could be a sound, it could be a feeling, it could be, whatever constitutes in your imagination recreating, something or creating something, and then just going with that is very powerful. I focus on a lot, like Apollonius was saying, the different aspects of divinity, but I delve a lot into pop culture as well, because the divine pops up in pop culture a lot. So I've studied like different manifestations of pop culture, like in comic books and movies and cartoons. And that's been very productive, because it's an expression that pops up in people's creativity, and then other people contribute to that creativity and create a story, and the story communicates something if you let it. And sometimes that takes a little bit of time, sometimes it takes a lot of time, sometimes it leads somewhere, sometimes it leads nowhere. But I always found it's productive to do this thing. And I was wondering whether to include it on this project that I'm working on, some information about that, because that's something I do routinely. I use visualization for all sorts of things, like even when exercising. I'm into comic books, and I like Jack Kirby. He takes care of pantheons like Asgard and Olympus, and with the Eternals and the new gods. He's a person whose imagination has created pantheons in the comic book medium. So he draws in a certain way, and I found that I can visualize a gym for gods. And in my imagination, before I work out, I go to the gym for gods, and these are machines designed, by gods for gods, and I exercise there, and I could see my muscles and visualize them, and I could see health and increasing and improving, and then that hyper motivates me. I have a phenomenal amount of energy. So regardless of how tired I was before I did the meditation, I'm hyped enough to do like a good workout. And sometimes it's long, sometimes it's short, but my workout is phenomenal. So I find that the visualization, it motivates and invigorates, it empowers. So it could be used for spiritual purposes or for mundane purposes, but I agree, it's a phenomenally powerful tool. That's it.
It's a very excellent idea to do that.
That's awesome.
I think we have time for the second question about.
Can I come back and talk about that a little bit and sort of pick it up, because Jean-Louis kind of picked up on something that I think is one of the reasons that this is an important thing. Gregory Shaw is talking about the body, the model of how Theurgy works, that we have a physical body and a soul, but the soul also has a body. It's important. That's really kind of critical to understand, I think, how Theurgy works. The soul also has a body, which we can call the subtle body. And the subtle body is a temple that allows you and the deity to meet. So there are a lot of possessory ideas about when deity enters your body, which knocks consciousness to the back of the head. And that is a different thing than the theurgy that we're talking about. If you think of the body as just having a soul, if you invite the deity into the body, then you don't have anywhere to go. You kind of leave and leave the deity in charge of your body. But if you have this third thing, the subtle body, that gives you a place where you and the deity can meet and talk. And the systasis, the theurgic moment, is about us communicating with the deity and remembering this and having this engagement. And so the exercises that we do are to strengthen the subtle body, the diet, and visualization is about, we think of it in terms of vision. And Jean-Louis was talking about how some people don't necessarily have the ability to create a clearly constructed image. And having taught just tons of people, there are some people who resist and say, you know, I don't visualize at all. And so what we say is, in whatever way that makes sense to you, understand that, and then give whatever the parameters are. Understand that you're looking at a deity who's got, who is holding a lyre, right? And has nine muses dancing around, you know, and so now you have Apollo, right? With a sun around his head. So whatever way that makes sense to you. But I think Bruce picked up on that you attach the attributes. That's kind of what I meant by visualization. But then the sort of like inner thing is that visualization, to Jean-Louis' point, creates something. And I think the word for that is eidolon. And what Iamblichus says is that you see with the eyes of the soul. So you have this temple that you've built up. You invite the deity into the temple and you see with the eyes of the soul. So you've built up this image. And that's what you were using, the sense that you were using to interact with the deity. And lecture.
Yeah, if I can follow up on that too. I mean, and this is something that Gregory Shaw has talked about also, is that in theurgy, you're essentially doing a demiurgical operation. And so the sort of visualization that Jean-Louis was talking about, and imagination would be another word for it, that would include all of the senses. I mean, it's really, if you think about it, you're kind of doing the Platonic thing. You've got a form, an idea, it's manifesting in the soul, and ultimately maybe manifesting in the real world. But it's that downward process of becoming more manifest. And it is, I think, very important in terms of understanding, if you like, the theory behind it, even the physics behind it, is that takes place typically within the subtle body. And in most versions of Platonic psychology, the imagination resides in the subtle body. And, you know, again, when we say imagination in English, we think of it as something unreal, you know, oh, well, that's just imaginary. But fantasia could be used that way also, but it's specifically in philosophy, it's often used to represent the true imagination, the imagination that reflects the reality that really exists. And that's what's going on there, is your imaginary idol and the god's imaginary idol are meeting in that temple you talked about, but that temple resides within the imagination, which is embodied, literally embodied, in the subtle body. And so that's why it's very important to purify the subtle body, because then it becomes a better vehicle for these types of practices to take place. And the sort that Jean-Louis was talking about as well. Certainly, I think it's important to, you know, people have different cognitive styles. Some people are more visually oriented, others are more auditorially oriented, and so forth. You could improve those with practice, but also, you know, it'd be an interesting thing. I haven't really tried, but, you know, instead of burning incense, to imagine the incense very vividly.
Yes,
you know?
that works.
And as you probably know, I found it very amusing that some years ago, sports teams started using visualization as a way of improving their practice. And I thought, oh, it's a good old magic technique, you know, that magicians have been doing for eons, and finally coaches have figured out it works for athletics too, and music. So that's where you have tactile imagination or kinesthetic imagination. And again, if you develop it so that it's detailed enough, then you can actually manifest things in the imagination that then later manifest in physical reality or in more concrete, gross materiality. So yeah, really, but it's to come back to the issue of visualization or more broadly imagination. It is probably the most important skill of all of these skills in terms of developing these kinds of theurgical and other types of magical abilities like that, psychic abilities. And it's standard part of the training of, ceremonial magicians for a long time. It's this is just the standard stuff, really.
We're unfortunately we have 7 minutes till 10, and a few of you have expressed that you need to leave at 10. So we might have to leave this on a to be continued. And I can actually contribute to this this thread also. So I guess if everybody can share their contact information again and what we should be looking out for in the months ahead, that would be awesome. And we'll go the other way now with Jean-Louis. We'll start with him.
So same, my website, debiasi.org. You can find me on Facebook. Obviously, I cannot go everywhere every time, but you can. And the aurumsolis.org, aurumsolis.org. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And Apollonius.
2 ways to get me: opsopaeus.com. That's opsopaus.com, and wisdomofhypatia.com. And the only news for me really is my book coming out in May. So my book on secret texts of Hellenic polytheism about George Gemistos Plethon.
And we'll have very many shows just focusing on that, I'm sure. And last but not least, Brandy.
Yes, so my contact is brandywilliamsauthor.com, and I will get tomorrow to put a link up to my reissued book, For the Love of the Gods, The History and Practice of Theurgy, Our Pagan Inheritance.
Very awesome. Thank you to everybody. This was a phenomenally important conversation, and thank you, Jean-Louis, for sharing this, again, earth-shaking news. And thanks to everybody who tunes in. This will be on YouTube tomorrow, hopefully after midnight tonight, if not the next day. So thanks everybody for being here. Until next time, this is us wishing you joyous journeys and amazing adventures. Take care, everybody, and thank you.
Thank you.
Along.